I got the text while standing in the cereal aisle, holding a box of Frosted Flakes like it was evidence. Don't come to Christmas, your brother's in charge. That's the subject line. The body was worse. Let's keep the peace this year. He's planning everything. Love you. Peace. Funny word for a woman who just let me pay off her mortgage and her visa in the same week. You ever notice how people say love you like a receipt? Short, ugly, and non-refundable. I didn't reply. I just stared at that blue bubble like it might sprout hands and apologize. It didn't. A kid in a dinosaur hoodie shambled past me, dragging his mom by the wrist. The store smelled like old coffee and pine cleaner, and Jingle Bell Rock was stabbing my skull on loop. This is where I should have dropped the cereal and walked, but I did what I always do. I swallowed. The phone buzzed again, this time from my brother, King Rob. Yo, logistics for Sunday. Bring nothing. No punctuation. No hey. Just bring nothing, like I'm contraband. I thumbed my wallet. The card felt hot. Last Tuesday, I'd watched 5 zeros vanish into a bank portal with mom's maiden name as the security answer. Picture me, midnight, laptop glow, debt totals blinking. Helic, Visa, something called Care Credit I didn't ask about. I typed so fast the bank probably thought I was being robbed. Joke's on them. I was the robber and the hostage. Bring nothing. My brother, the man who once sold my guitar to pay his bar tab, is now issuing orders like he invented Christmas, and me showing up would breach copyright. I laughed. It came out like a cough. The cereal box slipped, corner denting against the metal shelf. Excuse me, I said to nobody. A painted Santa grinned at me from a display of peppermint bark with those dead porcelain eyes. The kind that say, you bought your way in and still got left outside. Classic. I texted back, finally. Mom, did you forget my name or just my face? Then to Rob. What if I bring oxygen? Is breathing allowed, or does that siphon your glory? Rob's bubbles popped up, stalled, disappeared, popped again. That's his tells. He writes 4 drafts of something cruel, then sends something worse. Don't be dramatic, he sent. Mom doesn't want stress. You have a way of escalating. I could see him in my head. Cheeks flushed, wearing that fake neutral expression he uses when he wants you to think he's above it. He's not above anything. He's just tall. Escalating, I muttered. Like Venmo and G a down payment? I slid the cereal back and grabbed nothing. The nothing felt heavier than the box. Here's the part where I should tell you I'm long-suffering, a saint with a Costco-sized patience. No, I'm not stupid. I'm complicit. That's worse. Every time my mother has a problem, I fix it because I'm good at fixing things. That's how you end up the villain. You become the wrench that looks like a weapon. I called her. Straight up. Because I'm old-fashioned in the most pathetic way. She answered on the second ring, all breathy. Sweetheart, I was just. Was that a group text or just my scarlet letter? Don't be unkind, she said, soft, like she's petting a dog she plans to leave at the shelter. Your brother's taking a lot of responsibility this year. Ah yes, responsibility. In our family, that means setting the table and claiming credit for the food someone else bought. I thought responsibility was paying a bank and keeping the house from evaporating, I said. My voice was level, dangerously level. Inside me, chairs tipped, plates skittered. Honey, she said, stretching the word into a hammock to lay the lie in. You know how your brother gets. If you come, he'll feel overshadowed. I swear to you, the aisle tilted. Overshadowed. The word ricocheted around the shelves, knocking over cornflakes. By what? I said. My presence. My terrible habit of existing. Silence. I could hear the television in her background, some judge show-gaveling strangers. She covered the mouthpiece and whispered, shoo, like someone else was there. Who are you shushing? I said. She didn't answer. This is where the camera cuts to my face, and you see it. Understanding, then its evil twin. Rob's there, isn't he? No, she said too fast. I mean, he's in and out. Helping. Helping. Another family word that means rearranging furniture and telling you where to sit. I closed my eyes and saw last month. Rob leaning against Mom's counter, picking at the lemon bars I baked, telling a story about his startup, like it wasn't just reselling vintage jackets on Depop. Me at the sink, wrists deep in suds, listening like a good idiot. You ever listen to someone and feel your brain filing divorce? Mom, I said, I'm not a grenade. You don't understand, she said. And that's the knife? Right there. The line mothers use when they're about to rewrite your history with a lavender pen. Your father? Yeah, I said. He finally decided to call me son with his mouth instead of his tax filings. Another silence. Longer. The judge show laughed a track. Then Mom said it, light as snow. Your father co-signed the helic with Rob. He's been very supportive. There it was. The gut punch. Not the debt, please. I can survive numbers. The alliance. Dad and Rob sharing a pen, a plan, a prayer I wasn't invited into. They built a little bridge over me and never told me I was the river. If you need the twist spelled out, I didn't save my mom. I bailed out my brother's leash. The house just happened to be attached. I put my hand on the shelf to steady the room. So the money, I said. It went to what exactly? She exhaled. The sound of someone fogging a mirror and writing a lie. Medical things. Installments. You mean care credit for new veneers? I didn't ask, I knew. Her S's lately had been suspiciously smooth. And the helic? I said. For the business, she said. He needed inventory. Your father believed. Of course he did, I said. Dad loves a son you can brag about. I am not braggable. I pay things. That's not a story, that's an invoice. You're making this ugly, she said. It's already ugly, I said. I'm just turning on the lights. A woman in a red vest asked if I needed help. I looked at her name tag, Jennifer, and thought, yes, but not the kind you sell next to the crackers. I shook my head. I'm good. I lied, and she drifted away on squeaky shoes. Look, Mom said, and her voice did that quaver that means she's about to cry without tears. It's just one Christmas. Your brother's planning a surprise. He wants to make amends. By banning me? He didn't, she stopped. Reset. You can come by New Year's. We'll have you then. We'll have you then. Like I'm a backordered blender. You know what? I said, and I smiled because smiling keeps the rage from showing its teeth. Tell Rob I got the message. Logistics received. I'll bring nothing. Don't be like that, she whispered. Like what? I said. Paid in full. I hung up. Yeah, I know. Childish. But sometimes you close the scene before the director yells cut. The phone buzzed again. Rob, don't make this harder than it is. I typed. Harder than refinancing your conscience. Deleted it. Typed. Congrats on your new teeth by proxy. Deleted that, too. Then I wrote the most dangerous thing a person like me can write. Nothing at all. You'd think paying off your mother's debts would buy you a seat at Christmas dinner. Turns out, it buys you an eviction notice from the holiday entirely. It was Wednesday night when her text landed, a glittering little grenade. Don't come to Christmas. Your brother's in charge this year. I stared at the screen. The same thumb that just last month had signed the bank transfer to clear her 27 grand in credit card bills now twitched like it might punch through glass. I called her. She didn't answer. Called again. Straight to voicemail. So I tried the house phone, because yes, my mom still has a landline, like it's 1998 and caller ID is cutting edge. She picked up after 3 rings, breathless like she'd sprinted there. Mom. Listen, honey, it's just, best if you don't come this year. Best for who? A pause. I could hear clinking, ice in a glass. We're keeping it simple. Your brother's handling everything, and he. Oh, he. My voice cut sharper than I meant. The same he who borrowed money from me last year to fix his truck and never paid it back. He's been stepping up lately, she said, in that tone she uses when she's already picked a side but wants to pretend she hasn't. I laughed. Not the funny kind. Stepping up? Or stepping into the role I've been breaking my back to fill since Dad left. She didn't respond. Just that faint sipping sound, like she was hydrating for the next round. Tell me the truth, I said. Did he ask me not to come? It's not about that. Which, of course, meant it was exactly about that. I should have hung up. Should have said Merry Christmas, enjoy the ham. Instead, I went for the jugular. Are you serious? I bail you out. Pay off every dime of your debt. And my thanks is being told I'm uninvited? Her voice softened, that faux maternal coo. It's not like that. You've always been so intense about holidays. I just want something peaceful. Translation, my brother's been whining about me, and she'd rather keep the peace with him than stand up for me. You ever notice how peaceful always means, without the person who calls out your favorite child's crap? I said. She sighed. You're making this ugly. No, Mom. It was already ugly. I just turned the lights on. I found out what being in charge meant 2 days later, by accident. I was at the hardware store picking up an extension cord for my own sad little tree when I ran into Mrs. Larkin, the neighbor who's been living next to my parents since before I could ride a bike. The kind of woman who knows everyone's business before it happens. "Oh, honey," she said, clutching her cart like it was a walker. "Your brother's doing such a lovely thing for your mother this year." My jaw tightened. "Oh yeah? What's that?" "He's paying off the house," she said, eyes wide, like it was a miracle. She told me he came into some money and wanted to surprise her. "All the girls at church are talking about it." I laughed, loud enough for the guy stocking nails to look over. "Is that so?" It took me about 3 seconds to connect the dots. The helic I paid off. The mystery deposit in her account. She'd told everyone my brother saved the house. "You sure you didn't mishear her?" I asked, testing. Mrs. Larkin shook her head, smiling like she'd been personally invited to the coronation. "Oh, I heard her loud and clear. Said you've been too busy with what was it, your own life to help lately." But Robert stepped up. There it was again, stepped up. Like I'd been sitting on my hands while Rome burned. I don't remember leaving the store. I do remember standing in my kitchen, staring at the email from my bank showing the transfer. My name on the payment. My account. My money. But somewhere between my mother's front door and Mrs. Larkin's gossip circuit, it had been laundered into my brother's generosity. I texted him. "Nice job paying off the house." No reply. 5 minutes later. "Don't start." I called. He answered with a smirk in his voice. "Look, she's happier thinking I did it. Why ruin that?" "Because it's a lie," I said. "It's a story," he corrected. "And it works better with me as the hero. You're not exactly the warm and fuzzy type." "You mean I'm the type who actually pays bills?" "That's not what Christmas is about, bro." "Oh, I forgot," I said. "Christmas is about rewriting history and cashing checks you didn't earn." He didn't even get mad. He just chuckled. "You've always had a chip on your shoulder. Maybe sit this one out and let me give her a good holiday without all your energy." That's when I realized it wasn't just about Christmas dinner. He wasn't keeping me away for peace. He was keeping me away so he could rewrite the family story without the one witness who could blow it up. I didn't go straight to her house. I wanted to. God, I wanted to bust in there and point to the framed, paid-in-full notice like a detective slapping evidence on the table. But I waited. Called her instead. She answered on speaker, her voice echoing slightly, kitchen acoustics. "Hey, sweetie. Where's Rob?" I asked. A pause. "He's around." "Put him on." Another pause. "He's busy." "Doing what?" "Practicing his savior of the family speech." She sighed. "Don't start." "Oh, I've already started." I cut in. "Mrs. Larkin told me about your little church announcement. How Rob paid off the house." The background noise stopped. Chair scraping. Then Rob's voice, closer than I expected. "You really going to harass Mom over semantics?" "Semantics?" My laugh was sharp. "You're taking a full-blown victory lap with my money. That's not semantics. That's identity theft without the paperwork." Mom jumped in. I told him not to say anything. But, well, people like a simple story. "And in your simple story, I'm what? The selfish kid too busy to help?" She didn't answer right away, which told me everything. "You knew it was wrong," I said, quieter now. "And you let him take the credit because it made you feel good." "I just wanted a nice Christmas," she murmured. "You wanted a fairy tale," I said. "And I'm the monster that doesn't fit in it." Rob chuckled. "See? You make everything about you. This is why you weren't invited." "You're right," I said. "It's not about me. It's about Mom knowing exactly who bailed her out and still handing my chair at the table to you." Silence. "You want me gone, fine," I said. "But don't think for a second that this little rewrite makes you a hero, Rob. It just makes you a con artist with better PR." I hung up before he could fire back. My phone buzzed a minute later, a text from Mom. "We'll talk after the holidays. Let's not ruin things now." Translation: keep quiet while your brother soaks up applause for your work. Smile pretty for the family album you're not in. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This was the new narrative. And if I didn't do something, Rob Saved Christmas would be family gospel by next year. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rob at the head of the table, carving ham like a benevolent king while Mom beamed at him. telling anyone who'd listen how her baby boy saved the house. And me? I'd be a ghost in the background, if I existed at all. By sunrise, I knew what I was going to do. Not revenge. Not exactly. More like course correction. Step 1 was the church bulletin. I called Mrs. Larkin at 8:02 a.m. because she's the kind of person who's up and fully dressed before most people hit snooze. "Oh, I've been meaning to call you," she said. "Did you hear? They're doing a little presentation for Robert on Christmas Eve service. Pastor's going to thank him in front of everyone." "Is that so?" I said. "It's just the sweetest thing," she went on. "He's even bringing a big check prop for the kids' pageant skit." A big check prop. Like he's a game show host. I asked her, sweetly, if she'd be willing to send me a photo of that moment. "You know, for the family scrapbook." She said of course. Step 2 was my own announcement. I drafted a letter, polite, warm, Christmas card style. It started with, "This season, I'm grateful to have been able to pay off my mother's home this year," and ended with a generic blessing about peace and joy. No shade, no digs, just facts. Then I printed 50 copies and mailed them to every extended family member, church elder, and neighbor I could think of, postmarked 2 days before Christmas, arriving right after their perfect dinner, just in time to sit in every mailbox like a sugar-coated truth bomb. Step 3 was the gift. I logged into Mom's bank account. Yeah, she never changed the password after I paid off the Helic and set up a recurring payment for $1. A note on each transfer. From the selfish kid too busy to help. Petty? Sure. But subtle enough to keep me entertained for the next decade. The hardest part wasn't doing it. It was not telling them. Not texting Rob a winking emoji. Not warning Mom that her story had an expiration date. I wanted them to feel safe. To believe the rewrite was permanent. Because nothing makes the truth hit harder than thinking you've buried it for good. Christmas Eve. I didn't go, obviously, but I didn't have to. Mrs. Larkin has the live stream bookmarked like it's Netflix. At 6:43 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from her. Here it comes. I opened the video just in time to see the pastor on stage, microphone in hand, grinning like he was about to hand out the Nobel Peace Prize. "Tonight," he said, "we want to recognize a very special act of generosity. Someone who stepped up to keep his family in their home. A true example of Christian giving, Robert." Applause. The camera panned to my brother, sitting in the front pew in a brand new suit, standing up like he'd just been called to accept an Oscar. Mom's hands were clasped under her chin like she was watching a Hallmark proposal. And then, God help me, out came the giant cardboard check. $148,372. Payable to Mom. Memo line, for the house. He actually waved as he walked on stage. Took the mic. Said something about how family means sacrifice, and you can't put a price on love, and we should all give without expecting recognition, while standing in front of a prop check taller than a 5th grader. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Because what he didn't know was that at that exact moment, my Christmas letter was sitting in a U.S. Postal Service bin about 5 miles away, ready to be delivered to half the people in that room the day after tomorrow. The truth was already in the pipeline. Mrs. Larkin sent me a blurry photo of him shaking the pastor's hand, his grin so wide it looked painted on. She added, "You must be so proud of your brother." I typed back, "Pride's one word for it." Then I closed the stream and went back to wrapping the only present I'd bought this year, an electric kettle for myself. Figured I'd need something to make tea while I watched the fallout. Because here's the thing about public glory. Once you've claimed it, you don't get to hide when it burns. The first letter must have hit early, mailman running ahead of schedule, because my phone started buzzing at 8:12 a.m. on Christmas morning. First one was Aunt Carol. No hello, no Merry Christmas. Just, what the hell is this letter? I took a sip of coffee. Morning, Carol. You paid off the house? Not Robert. I did, I said. Happy to send you the bank statement if you'd like it framed. She made a noise like she'd swallowed her gum. We were all talking about how generous he was last night. Yeah, I said, and I'm sure he didn't correct you. 10 minutes later, Uncle Marty called. Then Cousin Jenny. Then 2 people I haven't heard from since high school graduation. By 9 o'clock, I'd stopped answering. At 9:17, Mom's name lit up my screen. I let it ring out. She called again, and again. Finally, I picked up. What did you do? She hissed. I told the truth. You embarrassed him in front of the whole family. I laughed. No, Mom. He embarrassed himself. I just removed the stage lighting. I asked you not to ruin Christmas. And I didn't, I said. Your Christmas was last night. This is mine. There was a sharp inhale, like she was about to unleash a speech, but a muffled voice in the background cut her off. Rob. He's jealous, Mom. That's all this is. Can't stand that I'm finally getting recognition. I leaned back in my chair. Recognition for what, Rob? Cashing a check I wrote? You think anyone's going to believe you now? He shot back. You sound petty. Desperate. I smiled into the receiver. Petty? Maybe. Desperate? No. I've already got what I wanted. What's that? Your face when the phone won't stop ringing. There was a beat of silence. Then, click. Call ended. I sat there for a while, watching the steam curl from my mug, listening to the quiet. Outside, a neighbor's kid was testing out a new bike, tires crunching over the frost. Somewhere across town, my brother was realizing you can't build a crown out of someone else's receipts. By December 27th, the calls had slowed. Not because the fire burned out, because there was nothing left to save. Everyone knew. That's when Mom finally switched from angry to conciliatory. She showed up at my apartment without warning, bundled in that oversized faux fur coat she bought during her winter glam phase. She held a foil-covered dish like it was a peace treaty. Turkey, she said. From the leftovers. I let her in. She put the dish on my counter and looked around like she was checking to see if I'd redecorated out of spite. You made a scene, she said finally. I mailed the truth, I said. The scene was already yours. She exhaled through her nose, the way she does when she's trying to keep the maternal mask on. Your brother's embarrassed. Good. Her eyes narrowed. He's family. So am I said. Or did my membership lapse when I started paying bills instead of telling stories? She sat at my table without being invited. You could have come to me first. I did, I said. You chose the fairy tale. She flinched at that. It wasn't about hurting you. It was about keeping the peace. Peace for who, Mom? The guy with the crown or the guy who paid for the castle? Silence. Then, quietly. You've always been difficult. That one landed harder than I wanted it to. I felt it in my jaw before I heard my own voice. And you've always preferred the easy one. The one who tells you what you want to hear. The one who lets you feel good without having to be honest. Her face hardened. Maybe you should think about why that is. I laughed, not kindly. Oh, I have. Every Christmas for the last 15 years. She stood. I don't want this to go on forever. It won't, I said. Eventually you'll need another bailout, and you'll remember my number. She didn't argue. Just grabbed her coat and left the turkey behind. 5 minutes later, Rob texted. Nice job, man. You win. Happy. I didn't respond. Because it wasn't about winning. Not anymore. It was about making sure the history books didn't get ghostwritten by the guy who only shows up when there's applause. New Year's Eve, for 46 p.m. I was halfway through chopping onions for a solo chili when the knock came. Not the polite kind. 3 hard thuds that said, open up. Rob. No smile, no fake charm. Just standing there in a hoodie and that baseball cap he wears when he wants to look low profile. Which in Rob speak means I don't want to be recognized while I do damage control. You got a minute, he said. 30 seconds. I stepped aside. He walked in, glanced around like he expected a crowd. You really screwed me, you know that? I went back to my cutting board. I told the truth. If that screws you, maybe look at your foundation. He leaned on the counter. You think this makes you look good? You think people are clapping for you right now? No, I said. I think they stopped clapping for you. That's enough. He smirked. You're bitter, man. Always have been. That's why Mom trusts me more. I dropped the knife. Not dramatically, just enough for the clink to cut him off. She doesn't trust you. She likes your version of reality better. You keep her comfortable. I keep her honest. Guess which one feels better at Christmas? He looked away for a second, then back at me. You could have just let it go. Let me have this one. This one, I said. Rob, this wasn't a toy you took from my room. You took my money, my name, and my seat at the table. And you thought I'd sit quietly in the hallway. He chuckled, but it was tight, nervous. So what now? We're enemies forever? I wiped my hands on a towel. No, we're family, which means we'll see each other again. Birthdays, funerals, whatever. You'll shake my hand. I'll shake yours, and we'll both know exactly what you did. And every time someone says your name with that little smirk, like they know the story, I won't have to say a word. That's the part you didn't think through. The silence. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. He just nodded once, muttered Happy New Year, and left. The door clicked shut, and for the first time all season, I actually believed it could be. January 3rd. Snow still clung to the edges of the street like stubborn secrets. The holiday trash had been hauled away. Wrapping paper, tinsel, those plastic bows nobody saves, but the phone stayed quiet. Mom didn't call. Rob didn't text. The silence was almost suspicious. I spent the morning doing something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing. No crisis to fix. No payment to authorize. Just me, the couch, and a mug of coffee that didn't taste like resentment. Around noon, Mrs. Larkin's Christmas card finally showed up, postmarked December 20th, lost in the holiday shuffle. Inside was a blurry photo from the church service. Rob, holding the giant check. Mom, glowing beside him. And right in the corner of the frame, barely visible but unmistakable, Mrs. Larkin's handwritten caption. Such a shame you couldn't be there. I pinned it to my fridge with a magnet shaped like a snowflake. Not as a wound, but as a trophy. A reminder. Proof that sometimes the best seat in the house is the one far enough away to see the whole stage. Because here's the thing they still don't get. I don't need their table, their turkey, or their applause. I don't even need them to admit I was right. All I need is the truth, set in enough people's minds that no amount of storytelling can bleach it out. And now it's there. Permanent. Let them have next Christmas. Hell, let them have the next 10. The crown's fake, the check's cardboard, and the only person they fooled is the one looking back at them in the mirror. I poured another cup of coffee, sat back, and smiled. You can't be uninvited from something you've already walked away from. And this year, I finally left. I left the store with empty hands and a head full of noise. The cold outside knifed my lungs, figuratively, relax, and my breath came in little ghosts. My car smelled like pine from the cheap tree I hung last week to look festive for no one. On the passenger seat sat a red envelope from HR, holiday bonus, still unopened. I tore it. $2,000 before tax. The amount didn't matter. Numbers are just the costumes feelings wear. I drove without the radio. The city was a string of wet lights, brake red and storefront gold. Somewhere, someone laughed too loud. I thought about the family photo, the one on Mom's mantle. The four of us in matching pajamas the year Dad still bothered. Rob's arms slung around me like ownership. Me smiling like I was trying on a face I couldn't afford. At a light, I caught my reflection in the rear view. Eyes too bright, jaw doing that clench I pretend I don't know about. I said to the glass, "You're not invited." Then I said it again, to make it sting less. Back home, my apartment was warm and honest. The one string of lights over the couch blinked like a patient heartbeat. I dropped the bonus on the counter and read Mom's message again. Don't come to Christmas, your brother's in charge. I didn't notice it earlier, but she'd added a second line now. It was waiting like a landmine. Also, if you can, could you change the autopay back? The bank called about January.